They are removing the rule to be on the debate stage where it says you have to have so many people donating to you. Otherwise, instead of 27 people on the stage, there'd be 227 people on the stage. So you had to have a certain number of Americans that would give you a buck. That's all the rule said. But it would to show that there's support. And that's how they determined who would be on that debate stage. Today, they removed that rule because Mike Bloomberg, the billionaire, the Republican mayor of New York City, they're backstage going, oh God, what's he going to say? They removed it so that he could be in the next debate. He doesn't have to show he has any support amongst the American people. He can just buy his way onto the debate stage. And I got to tell you what's so disgusting about this. I watched the debate in Iowa here 2 weeks ago. The all-white debate. And the fact that the DNC will not allow Cory Booker on that stage, will not allow Julian Castro on that stage, but they're going to allow Mike Bloomberg on the stage because he's got $1 billion fucking dollars.
Yes. And also, not allowing Tulsi Gabbard on that debate stage. DNC has just changed the rules. They've changed the rules. Bloomberg, before Bloomberg got into the race, he gave the DNC $325,000. Michael Bloomberg, recipient, DNC services, right here. Look at all that cash. Gobs and gobs and gobs of cash. But when you're a billionaire, you can do that. He's effectively buying his way on the debate stage. Do you realize Bloomberg has spent $250 million as an investment? Because he knows that if Sanders gets in, the tax that he would have to pay will exceed maybe $4 or $5 billion. So if Bloomberg drops $1 billion in this race, wouldn't hurt him one iota. Wouldn't hurt him one iota. There's nobody clamoring for Bloomberg to be on that stage. Ultimately, who's clamoring for it are the Jeff Bezos of the world, the other billionaire, or the first 1% class is backing Bloomberg. But again, that is 1%. Bloomberg has spent $250 million swarming the airwaves with ads. These ads have been giving Bloomberg a bit of support, meaning that by changing the rules just to focus on polling, Bloomberg is allowed, potentially, to get on the debate stage. They excluded Cory Booker, they excluded Tulsi Gabbard, they excluded Castro. There were 20 people on that stage. They excluded all of those people on that stage on the basis of them not getting either support, as shown through donations, or the polling. Bloomberg is qualified for one of the polls. But again, spending $250 million to do it. The DNC, Tom Perez, who at one point said, I can't change the rules. I can't change the rules. I can't be making adjustments on this in order to help this candidate or that candidate. I can't do it. He was asked about it from the climate change thing, where they put a knife in that to have a climate change debate. Can't do it, can't change the rules. Cory Booker, Gabbard, all of these people had sent requests to saying, look, can you allow us on the stage? I don't buy this guy's black, so he should be on the stage, or this person's a woman, so she should be on the stage. I don't buy that argument. I buy more so the argument that you are changing your rules for a billionaire. Are you fucking kidding me? How are you doing that? And how is that not rigged? The entire reason that Bloomberg is in this race is to stop Sanders. That is the only reason Bloomberg is in this race. You have, for all intents and purposes, an oligarch buying an election. How is that not disgusting? Is that any notion of democratic order, democratic process? There's nobody clamoring for Bloomberg. Nobody was screaming for stopping Fondle to get into the race. Nobody. He did this purely for his own self-gratification in order to protect him and his class. This guy's a fucking Republican, and you're allowing this Republican to potentially buy his way into the Democratic primary. That's astonishing. And the notion that the Democratic Party would change the rules for him, but not the others. I've heard Krista Ball make the argument that she wants Bloomberg on the debate stage. And I understand the argument. Ultimately, Bloomberg is running a parallel campaign to the actual primary process. Meaning you have all of these other candidates that's been in this race, that's been on those debate stages, that's been going back and forth, and the public, for the most part, has been able to see them for roughly a year. Bloomberg, with all of the money in the world, and that's not hyperbole, a little bit hyperbole, decides to buy the race because he doesn't want the policies that Sanders are going to put through because they're going to adversely affect him and his class. This should be rejected outright. This is utterly and entirely disgusting. If Bloomberg would have gotten to the race and he was doing, the donations and the polling and everything, I would have no issue with that at all. And it's not that I'm even all that entirely bothered by Bloomberg being on the debate stage, because I want him to get bullied on that debate stage. I want him to have to answer for his record as opposed to putting out these fucking videos. So don't misunderstand me. My issue here is that the DNC, just like they did in 2016, is gaming the system in order to stop Sanders. Bloomberg explicitly is in this race for that very specific reason. And changing the rules when all of these other people who are trying to qualify for the debate, all of these other people who are on that stage, that wanted to be on that stage, that petitioned and requested to be on that stage, none of those requests were heard. You give the DNC $325,000, yeah, we can make a space for you. We can change the rules drastically to allow you to get on the debate stage. How's that fair? How's that fair? If your name is Cory Booker, if your name is Tulsi Gabbard, how is that fair? It's not fair at all. You've just changed the rules so a billionaire can get into the race. We knew the DNC was going to cheat, and this is not even the only thing that they were doing. The purging of the Sanders supporters, changing the committees, putting all of these lobbyists and creatures on the committee that were overtly singing in the daylight, running through the lilies, anti-Sanders. John Podesta. They put John Podesta on one of the committees. I'm trying to get you to realize that the people who they're putting on the committee are people who were virulently anti-Sanders. And now they've changed the rules again to allow Bloomberg, potentially, to get on the debate stage, despite excluding all of these other people who might have made one requirement but not the other. The point is, this is a fail. And this gets across what they are willing to do to stop Sanders. They don't believe Joe Biden can carry the load. That's what this boils down to. Meaning, if Bloomberg thought that Joe Biden was going to win this primary, Bloomberg would not be in this race. Ultimately, Bloomberg is in this race because either through his own polling, through what he's seeing from the standpoint of all of these slew of polls that show Sanders is surging and Biden is just kind of floating or going down, he's concerned that Joe Biden can't carry the burden. I agree with him. Joe Biden can't carry the burden. And so Mike Bloomberg gets into this race to protect his class. And the DNC obliges him. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamal Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, subscribe. You can always support PayPal, Patreon. I am spitting angry this morning. So one of my supporters, I want to give a shout out to Crozet Owls and Roca, Marcus Roca, for sending me the Michael Moore video. I hadn't seen that video, so thank you. In fact, there's a lot of people to thank. Jeff Kuntz, he always sends me stuff. HB. A lot of people send me things and stories on my email because, especially now with all of the work during the daytime, I don't necessarily always see it. So those things kind of help. So I want to thank all of you who sends those particular stories, either through Twitter or through my Gmail. There's another story concerning the DNC that is even more onerous than this. Again, I have no issue with Bloomberg being on that debate stage, and part of me even wants him on that debate stage. I want the billionaire to explain how he thought it was okay to stop a large swath of black people in order to have police fondle those black people. I want him to explain how he made his billions when he was a Republican governing New York City. I want him to explain, or mayoring in New York City. I want him to explain and to get on stage and have to deal with the policies that he has been pushing over the course of his life. We'll love him to be on that debate stage. Not like this. I don't want him to be on the debate stage where the DNC is changing the rules to put him on the debate stage. Those are different things. That's dramatically unfair to the other people that were in the race that couldn't meet the criteria that Tom Perez said is etched in fucking stone. This is etched in granite. We can't change it. Bloomberg drops $325,000 into the DNC, spends $250 million in ads, and the DNC is like, all right, well, let's get him on the stage. To give the benefit of the doubt, perhaps the DNC looked at this and said, Mike Bloomberg is effectively running a parallel campaign where he never has the answer for anything that he has done. And the stuff that he's been putting out, gun control, this type of stuff, because he can't deal with economic issues because he can't have that conversation. But he doesn't have to have that conversation if nobody engages him and talks to him and pushes him to get that out of him. Meaning, you can't have a bad debate if you're not on the debate stage. And Bloomberg has enough money and cash to effectively just buy all of the ads, to buy all of the people that he needs, to essentially pay for all of the stuff, essentially to run a campaign, not based on popular support, based entirely on the money that he has in his pocket and his bank account. Why is that not disgusting? Why is that not disgusting? Now, it sounds like I'm saying two things, but I'm not. I'm making the point that, yes, I would love for Bloomberg to be on the debate stage. No, I don't want him getting on the debate stage with the DNC changing the rules to allow it. It sounds like the same thing, but they're not. If he met the requirements, no issue. But changing the requirements, meaning an A is not 95 to 100, an A is now 60 to 100. This is fucking astonishing. And it gets worse than this, by the way. On my next story, you'll see what I mean. DNC overhauls debate requirements, opening the door for Bloomberg. Let me just read it. The Democratic National Committee is drastically revising its criteria to participate in the primary debates after New Hampshire, doubling the polling threshold and eliminating the individual donor requirements, which could pave the way for former New York City Mayor Mike Bloomberg to make the stage in mid-February. Candidates will need to earn at least 10% in 4 polls released from January 15th to February 18th, or 12% in 2 polls conducted in Nevada or South Carolina. In order to participate in the February 19th debate in Las Vegas, any candidate who earns at least 1 delegate to the national convention in either Iowa caucus or New Hampshire primary will also qualify for the debate. The new criteria eliminates the individual donor threshold, which was used in the first 8 debates, including next week's debate in New Hampshire. Bloomberg, the self-funding billionaire, has refused to take donations from other individuals, which thus far precluded his participation in any of the debates since he joined the race last year. Now that the grassroots support is actually captured in real voting, the criteria will no longer require a donor threshold, said Adrienne Watson, a DNC spokeswoman. The donor threshold was appropriate for the opening stages of the race when candidates were building the organization and were no metrics available outside of polling to distinguish them and making progress for who they are. But that's just it, right? You chose that. That was an arbitrary choice. You chose to put a donor threshold on there. You did that. And you forced all of the candidates who was in the race up to that point to abide by that donor threshold. And in getting that donor threshold, using that as a metric to determine who should and shouldn't be on the debate stage. If you want to use polling as a metric, okay, maybe. I don't necessarily like the way that's being done either. But nevertheless, whatever metrics you start with, however, to some degree, you got to stay with the rule set. Otherwise, as Tom Perez even said, it would not be fair. This is astonishing. Bloomberg probably didn't want to be on the debate stage. I want him to be on the debate stage. I do not want the DNC changing rules that adversely affected many of the other candidates in the race to exclude them from the race. And now a billionaire gets in February, and all of a sudden they're like, all right, we'll change the rules to allow Bloomberg in. I don't understand how that's fair at all. I don't understand how that's fair to the other candidates that was in the race that was excluded because they couldn't meet the donor requirements. I don't get how that's fair. Don't get it in the least. Jeff Weaver goes so far as to say, right here, this is Bloomberg's person. We are thrilled that voters could soon have the chance to see Mike Bloomberg on the debate stage, hear his vision for the country, and see why he is the strongest candidate to defeat Donald Trump and bring our country together. Bloomberg's campaign manager, Kevin Sheekey, said in a statement following the announcement. You have a billionaire president, Or at the very least, he calls himself that. The Democratic Party has a billionaire, Tom Steyer, that effectively has been spending, $100 million at this point? Bloomberg, $250 million? And you understand what that does, right? When you have billionaires in the race like this, it forces every other candidate in the race, especially candidates who are getting small dollar donations, to increase the amount of money that they have to spend, meaning they have to burn through their money faster because of the amount Bloomberg is putting out. This is a real contest to some degree of cash versus manpower or grassroots power. I would hope people weren't so blind and fucking stupid that they would look at an ad and say, yeah, that's my guy, Bloomberg. That's my guy. Stop and frisk. Stop and frisk. This is Weaver. To change the rules in the middle of the game to accommodate Mike Bloomberg, who is trying to buy his way into the Democratic nomination, is wrong, Jeff Weaver said. Weaver pointed to other current and past candidates like Booker, Yang, Castro, and who dropped off stage because they couldn't meet the minimum polling threshold. Now suddenly, because Mr. Bloomberg couldn't satisfy one of the prongs to see it get changed, Weaver said, that's the definition of a rigged system where the rich can buy their way in. That is exactly what it is. That is exactly what it is. The DNC wouldn't do this for anybody else. They wouldn't do it for Gabbard. They wouldn't do it for Booker. They wouldn't do it for Yang. They wouldn't do it for anybody else. But Bloomberg. Oh, you haven't seen it begin. This is not even the beginning of it. It gets worse. Like, share, subscribe. I'll be right back. It gets worse. They're cheating. They're trying to rig the system against Sanders. All of this consternation about trying to stop Sanders and everything else is coming to fruition. They've realized that he is on a surge and it is freaking them the fuck out. They consider him an existential threat. And as considering him as such, you have all of these groups trying to find a way to hold back the night. Now, in trying to hold back the night, if you do it too overt, you're going to lose because people are going to it effectively destroys the Democratic Party. This does not help you. This doesn't help you because this looks like you're trying to cheat and rig the fucking system. Again, Bloomberg got into this race entirely to stop Sanders. And now the DNC, who's filled their coffers with a bunch of Hillary supporters and never Sanders supporters, is now also changing the rules to allow a billionaire who gave them $325,000 to get into the race. When Bill Clinton told Tom Perez, don't let Sanders take the party, Tom Perez is doing his best not to. This is the epitome of a rigged system. Like, share, subscribe.